They told him to stop. He kept walking, so they broke his leg, and the man who did it expected screaming, begging, maybe tears. Instead, the slave looked up at him, calm as still water, and said something that no master had ever heard before. Something that, 2,000 years later, psychologists are only now beginning to understand, because here is the strange thing. This man owned nothing. He had no rights, no money, no freedom. By every measure we use today, he was the ultimate victim. And yet he would go on to become one of the freest human beings who ever lived, freer than the emperor who ruled the world. How? What did he know that they didn't? That is the question. And the answer is a single mental move that takes about 6 seconds. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it, and you will never look at your own problems the same way again. His name was Epictetus, and his story begins in chains. Rome, the 1st century. A boy is sold into slavery before he is old enough to understand the word. He is passed from hand to hand like a piece of furniture until he ends up in the household of a wealthy, cruel man named Epictetus, a former slave himself who had clawed his way into the emperor's inner circle. You would think a man who had once been a slave would show mercy. He showed the opposite. There is an old account of what happened next, and it is hard to read. The boy's leg was being twisted, some say as punishment, some say as cruelty for its own sake. And as the pressure built, as the bone bent toward its breaking point, the boy did not panic. He simply looked at his master and said quietly, "You are going to break it." The master kept twisting. The leg snapped, and the boy, without a flicker of rage, said only this, "There, I told you it would break. Now stop." Sit with that for a second, because most people hear that story and think it is about toughness, about a man who could endure pain. But that is not it at all. That is not what made Epictetus extraordinary. Endurance is common. Soldiers endure. Prisoners endure. Anyone can grit their teeth. What Epictetus did in that moment was something far rarer. And to understand it, you have to understand what he was actually doing on the inside while the bone was breaking. He had already let the leg go. In his mind, before it ever happened, he had divided the entire world into 2 boxes, and everything he would ever experience went into one box or the other. That single division is the technique. That is the 6-second move. But if you do not understand how he built those 2 boxes, the technique is just words. So let me show you exactly what was happening behind those calm eyes. Most of us walk through life believing we are upset by things. The traffic, the insult, the diagnosis, the text that never came. We say, "That made me angry. He made me feel small. This ruined my day." And it feels completely true. It feels like the world reaches into our chest and flips our emotions like switches. Epictetus said that is the lie that keeps you a slave no matter how free you look. Here is what he realized while he was property, owned by another man. They could chain his body. They could break his leg. They could take his food, his sleep, his name. But there was one room inside him that no master could enter, the room where he decided what things meant, what to want, what to refuse, how to respond. And he understood something that almost no one understands even now. That room is the only thing in the entire universe that actually belongs to you. Think about your own life for a second. Really think. The morning you did not want to get up, and a voice in your head said, "I can't. I'm exhausted. Today is going to be terrible." Before your feet even touched the floor, the message you were afraid to send, rewritten 9 times, never sent. The moment someone raised their voice and you felt your whole mood collapse, like they had pulled a plug inside you. The promotion that went to someone else, and how for weeks you carried it like a stone in your stomach. In every one of those moments, you handed the key to that inner room to someone else, to a circumstance, to a stranger, to a past version of yourself. You said, "Here, you decide how I feel today." And then you wondered why you felt powerless. That is the victim mindset. And notice, it has nothing to do with whether bad things actually happen to you. Bad things happen to Epictetus that would shatter most of us. The victim mindset is not about your circumstances. It is about where you believe the control lives, outside you or inside you. And here's the part that should stop you cold. Almost everything that makes you miserable is something you do not actually control. The economy, other people's opinions, the weather, whether you are liked, whether you are chosen, the past, the future, your own reputation. You spend most of your emotional energy on things you can do absolutely nothing about, and then you call yourself unlucky. Epictetus drew the line. He said, "Some things are up to us, and some things are not. Up to us are our judgments, our intentions, our desires, our responses. Not up to us is everything else: the body, property, reputation, status, what other people do." And then he said the sentence that changes everything. He said, "If you think that the things which are not in your power are your own, you will be hindered, you will lament, you will be disturbed, you will blame both gods and men. But if you think that only what is your own, no one will ever compel you, no one will hinder you, you will blame no one, you will accuse no one, you will do nothing against your will, you will have no enemy, for no one will hurt you, no one will hurt you." A slave wrote that, a man whose leg was snapped like a branch, and he meant it literally. Now here is where modern science quietly walks into the room and sits down beside a 2,000-year-old slave. There is a principle in cognitive psychology, the foundation of one of the most effective treatments for anxiety and depression ever developed. It says that it is not events that disturb us, but our beliefs about those events. Between what happens to you and how you feel, there is a gap, a space. In that space lives a thought, an interpretation, a judgment. And that judgment, not the event, is what actually generates the emotion. The man stuck in traffic who thinks, "This is unbearable, I'm going to be late, everything is ruined," feels rage and despair. The man stuck in the same traffic who thinks, "I cannot move the cars, so I will use this time," feels nothing of the kind. Same event, same metal, same minutes, completely different human experience. The only variable is the thought in the gap. That gap is the room Epictetus lived in, and the 6-second technique is simply learning to step into that gap on purpose before the emotion takes you. Here is how it works. The instant something hits you, the insult, the bad news, the wave of dread, you have a window, a tiny one, maybe 6 seconds before the reaction hardens into a feeling, and the feeling hardens into a story about how the world has wronged you. In that window, you ask one question: is this up to me or not up to me? That is it. That is the whole move. But watch what it does. If it is not up to you, the traffic, the rude comment, the thing that already happened, then in that moment, you consciously, deliberately let it go. Not because you do not care, because gripping it changes nothing except your own suffering. You say, in the words Epictetus taught his students, "This is none of my concern," and you turn your full attention to the only thing that ever was your concern, your next response. If it is up to you, your effort, your attitude, your next word, your next action, then you pour everything into it, all of you, because that is the one place your power is real. 6 seconds, one question, 2 boxes. That is the entire method that let a slave look at his own breaking leg and feel free. So try it tonight. The next time you feel that hot rush of frustration, the clenched jaw, the spiral starting, catch it, pause, and silently ask, "Is this up to me?" If it is not, release your grip, finger by finger, and move your attention to what is. If it is, act. Do the small thing you actually control. Send the message. Get up. Say the word. Take the step. Do this for 1 week, and something quietly miraculous happens. The world stops feeling like something that is done to you and starts feeling like something you are responding to. The stone in your stomach gets lighter. The voice that says, "I can't," gets quieter. You stop waiting for circumstances to set you free because you finally understand they never could. Epictetus was eventually freed from slavery, but he would tell you that he was free long before anyone removed his chains. And he would tell you something harder too, that there are men walking around right now, rich, powerful, completely unchained, who are more enslaved than he ever was. Enslaved to their anger, their craving, their need to be approved of, their belief that someone else holds the key to their peace. The only real prison is the belief that something outside you controls how you feel, and you can walk out of it in 6 seconds. The man who taught the world this was a crippled slave with nothing. You have so much more than he did. The only question left is the one he would ask you. Now that you know where your freedom actually lives, what are you going to do with it? If this reached something in you, stay a while. There is more here, and the next one goes even deeper.